The outsider is one of the most fascinating figures in gaming. Not because he's a great villain, not because he wants to rule the world, and not because he's trying to save it. He is fascinating because he does something much stranger. He gives power to broken people. And then he watches. That alone makes him different for almost every dark god, demon or trickster in fiction. He does not command armies, he does not preach, he does not force anyone down a path. He opens a door, and then he waits to see who walks through it. This is what makes him so unsettling, because the outsider is not really interested in good and evil. He is interested in what people do when the world stops being safe, simple and predictable. And maybe that is because he understands something dark about human nature. Maybe he understands that we do not truly want a perfect world. Maybe we say we do, maybe we think we do, but if everything were certain, if everything were safe, if everything were already decided, we would suffocate. To understand why the outsider acts this way, you first have to understand who he is. The outsider was not born a god, he was human. Long before the events of Dishonored, he was a boy taken by a cult and used in a ritual. He was sacrificed at the place where the world touches the void, a strange and terrible realm tied to magic, death, and the forces beyond normal life. His throat was cut by a ritual blade, and through that act he was transformed into something else, not fully human, not fully divine, something in between, something bound to the void. That matters because the outsiders did not choose what he became. He was made into it. He was turned into a living wound between the human world and something deeper, older, and more dangerous. He is not a king of darkness in the simple fantasy sense. He is closer to a scar left by reality itself, and scars do not heal cleanly. They remember. Now, he exists outside the ordinary human life. He sees more than people do. He understands patterns. He watches history repeat itself. But that does not mean he knows everything in the simple sense. He is not a machine that sees every future with perfect detail. He does not act like someone who controls every outcome. If he did, there would be no reason for curiosity and there would be no reason to test anyone. What he seems to understand is not every answer but every possibility. He sees how people stand at the edge and change. He sees pressure building. He sees what someone might become if one new force enters their life, and that is where he acts. Not to save, not to destroy, to reveal. That is why he marks people like Corvo, Daud, and Emily. He does not choose saints, he does not choose monsters, he chooses people at the point of crisis, people who are wounded, people who are dangerous, people who could bend history in one direction or another. Then he gives them power. Not total power, not enough to make them a god, but enough to matter, enough to kill more easily, enough to move beyond normal limits, enough to reshape the lives of other peoples. Then he steps back. That is the key to the outsider. He does not create the wheel, he tests it. The power he gives does not come with morality. It does not come with rules, it does not come with the voice saying, use this for justice or use this for evil. It is simply power. And power without moral direction becomes a mirror. Corvo receives it, and depending on how he plays, it reveals restraint or brutality. Daud receives it, and it reveals skill, violence, and later guilt. Emily receives it, and it reveals the kind of ruler she might become. Same source, different souls. That is not an accident, that is the point. So why does the outsider do this? The simplest answer is curiosity, but that world is too small. This is not the curiosity of a bored child, it is something darker and deeper. It is the curiosity of a being who has seen too much repetition, too much order, too many human systems pretending to be stable, moral, and complete. He knows that they are not, because no human world stayed perfect for long. And maybe the reason is this: we are not built for perfect certainty. Human beings say they want peace, safety, and order. And to some degree that is true. We do want shelter, we do want food, we do want relief from pain. But that is not the whole story. We also want risk, we want movement, we want tension. We want the chance that something might happen. We want life to open. And when life becomes too still, too clean, too known, something in us begins to push against it. We test the limits. We start conflict. We chase danger. We break what is stable just to feel change again. Not always because we are evil, sometimes because we cannot endure a world where nothing is at stake. A perfect world sounds peaceful, but after a while it starts to feel like a cage. No struggle, no mystery, no danger, no adventure, no becoming. And that kind of certainty becomes its own form of tyranny. That is the dark idea inside the outsider. He does not introduce power, he introduces uncertainty. He breaks the pattern. He places a new force into a life, into a city, into history itself, and waits to see what emerges. In that sense, he's not just giving gift, he's adding chaos to a system that pretends to be stable. Corvo does not simply receive powers. Dunwell receives a variable it did not expect. Daud does not simply become stronger, the whole meaning of guilt changed around him. Emily does not simply gain magic, the future of the Empire becomes unstable again. And that matters, because uncertainty is where character is revealed. Not comfort, not ease, not perfect control. Uncertainty. There is almost something ancient in this idea. If human beings were placed in a perfect garden, with no pain and no risk, how long will it take before someone reached for the forbidden thing? Not because they needed it, because they need change, because they needed a door to open, because a life without danger may be safe, but it does not feel fully alive. That does not mean chaos is good by itself. It is not. Chaos destroys people, it breaks homes, nations, and minds. But a world without any uncertainty at all is not human either, and the outsider seems to understand that, and he seems to see the world like that. He is not trying to create paradise, he is not trying to create hell, he is trying to see what happens when certainty breaks, because only then does the truth come out. Only then do people stop pretending. Only then do they show what they really want. That is why the outsider is so compelling. He is not the hand that kills. He is not the throne that rules. He is not the law that judges. He is the question. What will you do when you can finally act? What will you become when power removes your excuses? What comes out of you when the world is no longer predictable? That is the test he placed before others, and maybe it is also the test he placed before the world itself. So in the end, the outsider is not terrifying because he is pure evil. He is terrifying because he understands something true. A perfect world will not free us, it could choke us. Because human beings do not live by certainty alone, they need risk, they need choice, they need the unknown. They need the feeling that tomorrow is not already written. And when that disappears, we start reaching for something forbidden just to make life move again. That is what the outsider brings. No morality, no order, no salvation. Possibility, danger, change. He does not give power to fix the world, he gives power to make it uncertain again, and maybe that is why he remains so haunting, because the darkest thing about the outsider is not what he gives people, it's what he reveals about people. And if you enjoyed that video, I will leave you with Corvo Atano. Power doesn't corrupt, it reveals you. As always, thank you for being there, and I'll see you next time.